welcome to today's webinar, Decoding the Third G, Generation Next, under the series of 5 Gs of Family Business. My name is Meeta Dikshit, and I'll be moderating today's session, which is hosted by Equations, a leading family business advisory company, and in association with the Institute of Management Consultants of India, Mumbai chapter. Before we start, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in the event. All the participants except panel speakers are muted and videos are off to get a better streaming. If you would like to ask questions to our panel speakers, request please type them in the Q&A box in your control panel, and I will bring them up after our discussion. Please do not write your questions in the chat box, otherwise it will get confusing. Chat section is open, but please give your feedback in chat box. Thank you. Succession is as important to a business as proteins and nutrients are important to our human body. Without succession, businesses do not sustain, do not survive, do not continue. So succession planning and particularly in family business is, I would say, is a very, very vital and very crucial element for the continuity of the business. And that is where the succession, or say the next generation, particularly in family controlled businesses, plays an important role to carry on the baton, to carry on the legacy. And today, I'm very happy and privileged to have speakers, my panel guests here, who are going to share their practical first-hand experience on succession, on next generation, on generation incumbent, their challenges, their opportunities, and how they look at family business success from the perspective of next generation building. So I'm without much ado, I'm going to introduce our guest speakers today. And as I think most of our participants, many of our participants know Mr. Walter Vieira very well, but I still would like to talk about him and give a bit of introduction about Mr. Vieira. Mr. Vieira is a very well-known name in management consulting field, and authority or a guru on marketing. He has been the pioneer in starting marketing consultancy as a profession in India. After 14 years of corporate experience in his career, or the beginning of the career, 14 years, and then he, in 1975, he started a marketing consulting company, and that was the first in India. And since then, he has guided innumerable businesses, innumerable families, not only on marketing or strategies, but also on business and also on their family dynamics. So Mr. Vieira is not just a marketing guru. He's a very, very enchanting storyteller. And many of you who have interacted with him would know that. He's a prolific writer, and he has written 15 books on business management, and including our joint venture, the 5 Gs of family business, co-authored. Both of us, we co-authored. He's a regular columnist in many business magazines and Economic Times and several magazines. And his recent column in Money Life magazine is absolutely fabulous. It's getting very, very good, very rev reviews. And that is about the lessons from the past. What he looks at the yesteryears of management and how he connects it with today's management challenges is very interesting. So I would request our participants to have a look at Money Life magazine. It's available on net, and go through his columns. That's very interesting. Mr. Vieira, welcome to our session, our third of the series of 5 Gs. It's been a pleasure. Another speaker, or my another guest, is absolutely, I would say, a story. It's a story in himself. It's rags to riches story, if I would say. In 1969, he completed his SSC, gave his exam, and the next day onwards, his career started. He started working at Finolex as a helper executive, helper assistant. And through his with all the competition, with lack of resources and managing work, college life balance, and striving hard to support his family, he paved his way to take his company to the top of its industry. Mr. Madan Baldev Dodecha. He started his career with a salary of rupees 165 a month, and today he's completed 51 years of his work life and is the CEO of Vashi Electricals, that is a turnover of almost 800 crores. Mr. Dodecha, along with his brother Mohan Dodecha, they established Vashi Electricals in 1978. Sheer vision, insight, and a very, very prudent sense of running the business is what Mr. Dodecha, I think it is in his genes. And well, his dreams and his prudence, they matched. And the family business is very well successfully has established. It's completed 4 decades of relentless service to electrical and power transmission industry. Is not only Mr. Dodecha's inclination to find opportunities in every challenge, but also his hunger to explore new businesses. And we are going to learn more about that how he has managed his generation next and business growth and family growth and how the dynamics has worked. So we are going to know from him. Vashi Electricals is in the diverse areas of business of lubricants, automobiles, polymers, and very little, rarely, but then he's part of SME sector, but it is merged with 4 partner companies and various companies. The strength, employee strength of 1,000 plus, 1 million square foot of logistics center, and 27 plus pan-India sales offices. So Vashi Electricals is #1 channel partner in India for electrical and power transmission products. Mr. Madan Dodecha and Mohan Dodecha, they have passed on their wisdom, their business acumen, and the 40-year-old business legacy to their sons. Presently, they are the directors in the company. One of them, Suraj, is with us today, and other directors are Amit and Jatan. They are also working in the business and company and taking it to greater heights. I have interacted with Mr. Dodecha and the family as the advisor, and I would look at his part being a part of their family. He would, if I ask him that what are these 2 things which you think are important to grow a customer-oriented business? It's purely a customer-centric business. So what are the 2 things that are important? And he said, Nita, it's common sense and honesty. It doesn't require any Einsteinian knowledge to run the business. It's just common sense and honesty. So it is so humbly put. He truly believes that there is nothing can be achieved with hard work and willingness to explore and grow. No matter where you come from, no matter what conditions you thrive, you only have the power to write your destiny and quietly make it a history. So welcome, Mr. Dodecha. It's a real pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you very much.
And now is the next generation. So next generation, the second generation, here is the generation incumbent, and here is the next generation, Suraj Dodecha. He's director of Vashi Electricals. Suraj is an alumnus of FMB program from SPJ and SPJIMR. He did his graduation in 2007, and then he's been a part of the family business. I think he's in the business since 2005, almost 15 years. And he worked with KPMG also and global audit firm and got experience before he joined the family business. His passion is in 2 business areas. One is using the best technology platforms available to ensure the customers that Vashi receives and they get world-class services and be the benchmark in the industry. And second area, which is very close to his heart, and that is to ensure that his team members have the feeling of home away from home in Vashi. Yes, it's a faraway place where their office is located, and the whole staff feels that it is their home, and that itself is, I think, a very good, great achievement for a family business. He has invested 15 years of his life in Vashi Electricals, pursuing about 2 goals, these goals, and he strongly believes that the success of the organization is built on parallel foundation of equal focus on people and processes. So being the eldest of the next generation, Suraj, welcome to our webinar today and be my guest here. And I'm sure that with all our participants here, They are going to get great insights into real life situation of what happens when it comes to generation next in the business, in the family business. But I would like to this with this introduction, I would like to ask my first question to Mr. Walter Vieira, where Generation Next being the third G of 5G's framework. The first being the genesis, which we discussed in our earlier webinar, the origin or the start or the begin. Second, we discussed growth, why growth is important, how it is achieved, and especially in today's times with Generation X is coming in to lead the businesses. What happens with growth, or how does it take shape or to take the family businesses ahead? And now today we are discussing an important aspect, that is Generation X. So Mr. Vieira, the question here is that why this Generation Next or third G is what we think is a crucial element of success. Why do you think
Well,
Generation X is so crucial?
because the going forward of the company over the years depends on moving from one generation to the next. After all, no one is going to live forever. The only way, but companies go on living not forever, but for a long, long time, much longer than human beings. And therefore, there is always this urge to ensure that the company or the organization that you have founded through genesis, through growth, moves on and lives much longer, much after you. There is this human urge for immortality through whatever you have founded. And that, in a way, is a big challenge because everything is not under your control. One may have no children to begin with. Or it may be too early, like, for example, young people founding Flipkart when they don't have a family of that size. And it could be change in the environment where the business has no place. So all of these are challenges in this Gen Next, in the pursuit of Gen Next. And that is why, because it's a big challenge, it is where families, and with the help of consultants like you, try to ensure that somehow the threads are interwoven to make it a rope on which the organization can hold on to, depend on, and take it to, as some Japanese companies have done, to maybe 127 generations. That may be asking for too much, but at least 10, 15 generations. Surely that is a possibility, but it is a great challenge.
It is a challenge, and I agree with you because our research also says that out of 100 companies, 87 companies do not survive after the second generation. So the reasons are growth and Generation Next. When Generation Next is not there, it's not planned, or the growth is stymied, then the businesses do not survive, don't go beyond second generation. Very true. So I think it's, yeah, very well, it's the rope that you need to continuously keep on weaving and keep on strengthening, and that is where the Generation Next comes. That's thank you. My question to Mr. Madan Dodecha. Sir, you have, as an entrepreneur, you and your brother started in a very, very small way, just for the businesses for livelihood purpose. You started the business, and then struggle is a foundation of success, as you always say. But then when the businesses grow, and they come to an auto survival mode, then the focus of the entrepreneur that changes, and it becomes focuses more on scaling up the business, reaching new heights in terms of turnovers, in terms of organization, in terms of diversification. And in that whole managing business complexities, there is uh, the entrepreneur fears or he procrastinates on succession planning. So many times we see that the senior generation, that is incumbent generation, doesn't give a thought, very conscious thought, or put it in action. What should be the plan where he retires or she retires, or even if not retiring, but at least developing the second line of youngsters to take over later on the leadership baton. So where is this? What do you think that how the senior generation tackles this subject? The fear, the procrastination of planning from its family perspective, from its personal perspective, and especially when there are more than one successors, more than one younger generation members who are there in the business. So what is your view on that?
So, Meeta, thank you very much. Thank you for your kind words. And before I answer your question, I would like to share with you how I started this activity or this. Uh, how did I start having the thought of working? So, what I must give you a brief idea. What happened is when I was 10 years old, my mother at the age of 27 became a widow. So I was the eldest, and my youngest sibling, sister, was almost 1.5 years old. So we were 5 children, and my mother at the age of 27 was a widow. It was a tough and challenging time. The only reason for me to go to work was to bring smile on her face, to make her feel happy and make her feel that I am here to support you. Now that became my habit of life, to bring smile on my customer's face, to bring smile on every person whom I meet. And that became the purpose of existing and growing our business. So what you start doing daily becomes your habit, becomes your culture. And I think that is the way the whole environment around you develops. A man is made out of circumstances, and I started with a very small purpose of bringing a smile on my mother's face, but that became my habit, and it continued beyond my mother to my customers and to my stakeholder. Until today, my concept and the culture of the organization is to bring smile on the customer's face, and to be full of gratitude, and to be full of empathy when you are encountering or building up relations in this society.
That's
So
yeah.
coming to your answer, our family fundamentals are built on 3S formulas. Now, what are these 3S? They are about sharing, they are about sacrifice, they are about support. So they are non-negotiable. These are the concepts the whole family, the second generation, even the third generation has started understanding what are the fundamentals of being together. Personally, I am an impatient guy, I'm very impatient, but because I'm impatient, I'm very proactive. I go and tell in advance to everybody what to do next, what to do next. So there is an effect about it. Very early in my age, I realized that individual age is far more less than the organization age. That is what Walter also said just now. And once I realized for succession, there was no fear of insecurity, but there was fear that our customers and stakeholders, how they will be well looked after beyond my lifetime. And then the journey started of finding a successor. Now, this succession planning cannot be done in crisis. It has to be well thought of, and it has to be well planned for. So what I did is, I fixed a goal for myself. My first goal was that I should get away from customers and stakeholders, and I must have a team. So I must have a team for everything, and I must not be the first point of contact at any place. That was the first goal. So once you have a team, and once the team realizes in your absence whom to look for, you already have planned your succession. And that should be the way you take it. You should not be impatient. You must allow things to fall in place, and it's a jigsaw puzzle. Oh, eldest son hai, nephew है, CEO है, वो automatically it will come in place. The jigsaw puzzle will automatically get it solved if you are consciously aware about it on day-to-day basis. And that is what was my conscious effort of finding out that who is the most capable. Fortunately, it became very easy because things in the family started falling in place. So this was the way I looked at this. Hence, what I was focusing on, not on the succession planning, but on building leaders within the organization. So once you have leaders within the organization, you are also building a future leader to take care of this organization. So it's simultaneous, but it cannot happen overnight. It cannot happen in crisis. It has to happen at a very early stage. Once your basics have been established and you know your goals, you need a large army to satisfy your goals. And that is how it has happened at Vashi Electric.
No, that is wonderful. Very well said. And I think succession planning, as you rightly said, it's not just a process of a day to day or a month or a year or so. And it is not even just a process. It is the belief and it is your practice that you put it. So your satisfaction to customers, smile to customers is the value that you have inculcated in the organization, in the family, in your younger generation. And that
The
is
happiness, yeah, the happiness comes only when I see a smile on my stakeholder, on my customer's face. I feel my job is done. I have got my salary done.
Right. That is absolutely right. So I think from here now, the question is for Suraj. Suraj, you have, as Madanji said, smile on the customer and you go, and I've seen, I know you started working from a very base level and moved up in the organization. So you know all the nitty-gritties of the business. And moving. But my point, you are in younger generation. See, yours is a generation of siblings and cousins. So you are 4 male members, or say 4 sons, 1 daughter, all put together in the second generation. And 3 of you are working in the business, and others are not. So how, when you were growing up or so, what is how did this decision of joining the business came? Whether was it something that because it was easy thing, the platform was there and daddy was waiting for you to come and share his load, or you yourself had that entrepreneurial instinct, or you thought that no, this is the best way? I mean, what made you decide join the business? Because it's a very early age that you joined. So, and was there any time where you thought that no, this is too much of complexity here with all the family members being there, I don't want to, I just want to move away and do something on my own? Was it ever the thought?
Yeah, too many questions here. Answering the first question, I think my father must have had this thought, like how in 3 Idiots they say the father knew that mera beta engineer banega. I think the day any of the kids in our family are born, he is hoping against hope that they'll all join the business. So, so at that point, I think every action he took at home was to always create a very exciting feeling about joining the business. Every conversation at home, even when we were kids, was to show that workplace is a fun place. So as kids, all the siblings, all of us always looked forward to going to office. And I carry forward that same with my children today. The conversations are about creating excitement about getting to work. It was never about creating tension. He never brought his tension home. So I think that's an important thing to do from when you're passing the baton from one generation to the other, is that you make the person look forward to coming to business. Like any other kid, I had thoughts about doing something else. I wanted to, at one point become an engineer, do something else. At one point, I wanted to become a doctor, but they were very fleeting thoughts, because at the back of my mind, I always knew the excitement that was in the family business, and there was something that I always wanted to experience. So I hope I answer your question there. So yeah, I think it was very much there that we really, all of us wanted to be a part of the business at some point.
Ita, I want to add
Yes, sir.
how I tempted Suraj to come to the office. Probably he has forgotten. Every Thursday was his school holiday.
I skipped it.
Yeah, he skipped it, but every Thursday was his school holiday, and I used to tempt him because he used to like non-veg at that time very much. And at home, we used to not make non-veg. I used to tell him, come, there is a very good restaurant next to our office. I will get you a chicken masala from there. And I used to ask my secretary to prepare his weekly review question answer session. I used to give him my cabin to answer his question answer. The revision used to happen. And at lunchtime, Suraj used to enjoy a good feast of chicken masala, and that tempted him to come to the office and look at the environment at a very young age.
Wow. So bribery works. I think this is a good point. Bribery works in succession planning. That's
I was
excellent.
staying away from that discussion, but there was immense bribery from a very.
So now we have spilled the beans. Yes. No, but I remember because
So Suraj
Suraj,
does the same thing. Suraj does the same thing for his children. So when they come with a list of items they want to eat at the office.
Yes. Yes.
Not about food.
No, but I have seen Suraj, your son, coming to the office, very young 5-year-old child, and wearing the uniform and with his pen and drawing paper and all. I think it's absolutely right. You know, Generation Next doesn't happen, or succession planning doesn't happen when children grow up and then you ask them, oh, whether you want to join the business, our business, or you want to do something else. No, the career selection happens when they are very young, and that is where the induction starts. So I get many times this question from my students or otherwise their parents also, what is the right time to induct our children in the business? And I said, right time is when they're 5 years old, because this is where the whole culture of your business, the pride for business which plays. So it's very well said, very interesting. And I think your,
Also,
secrets
Nita,
of succession
I want
plan.
to add, you have to create space for their work at the office before they come. So it should not be in your cabin, it should be away, because he should not look every time right or left for an answer. He has to find out an answer himself. So what we did for Suraj was, we established a new office for him at Vasai. So I am not there. He has to struggle whole day to find an answer and grow. He may see who has grown without making mistakes. And that was my feeling. If I make him sit along with me, his journey of excitement will be very, very less. Let him go to a new place, new venture, adventure, and really grow himself. And that worked very well in case of Suraj, because he started becoming independent and he took his own decisions. And you should be happy about it, that your children don't come to you for solution. And that should be the ultimate.
But now my question is, Mr. Dodechar, now it is Suraj was the first and he joined the business, and that was an obvious, or say a natural succession happened. Natural planning happened, okay.
I was the eldest, but I didn't join the business first. My cousin joined the business 4 years before me.
Okay. Cousin joined the business. So then in three next generation members who are working in the business at different ages, or say at different time spaces, they joined the business. But how do you manage, or what is a way of grooming? What has been your tricks of grooming them so that they all three are having their spaces, they are having their roles, or clarity in what they are doing? How are they? Because there could be there may not be competition because of their age difference or so, but still there could be, when they work together, the different personalities, different perspectives. So how does this whole dynamics is being worked?
I will answer your question with one example I have in my mind today. It's about Jatan. Now Jatan was the youngest among the lot. Now what happened is, Jatan was also a pampered son. You know, well looked after, because we had created enough wealth in the family, and he was the person, he was the child who came, and he was having that type of all perks and facilities available. So when he was in USA, for every time he came for holiday, I used to send him a mail. Okay, you have a choice. You can spend your holidays in USA with your friends. No harm. We will fund you for that. But if you come, you have to get up before I get up. You have to be at work before I be at work. And you have to work at, so then there used to be little bit of bargaining, because after all, he is a growing child. He would say, okay, Papa, I will agree to everything, but Saturdays I will not come. But I used to work, ensure that I have enough type of projects and work for him even in those 3 months. So that story. But when he graduated and we wanted to go for his graduation ceremony, 15 days before the graduation ceremony, I wrote him a letter. Okay, see Jatan, now that you are planning to come back, you have a choice if you want to work in USA just like your other friends, or you want to come back. But if you want to come back, I have a plan for you. I will not allow you to come and work with all the 5 members, because already 4 are there. None of the customers, none of the principals, none of the employees will reach you, because they will get answer in the hierarchy among the 4, and you being the 5th, you will feel that you don't have, and already you have such a large network of friends. What will happen is you will stop coming to the office, or you will find reasons to go home early, and everybody will label you that you are only with friends and not with work. This will not work in my territory. So I will, the day we land, next day I will take you to South India, Bangalore. You have a choice of house, car you want, arrangement out of here. It is your choice and your taste. But I want you to, the day we come, next day we will go to Bangalore. And I want you to establish your own identity, so that you understand from grassroots level, how does this business work? How does the principal management work? How does the customers work? How does the challenges are there which you have to manage independently? And in the early stages, I used to go every week to Bangalore to meet him, to counsel him. Then I made it 15 days. Then I made every month. Fortunately or unfortunately, what happened? My manager over there, I went and told him, my son is almost your son's age. He has not come to replace you. I am just mentor him and let him grow. But in a month, that I don't know what happened. He said, sir, I don't want to work. Now this 25-year-old boy finally became the boss of 50 people. And 50 people, all senior to him, started calling him sir, not because he was boss son, because he picked up the threat so fast, because he adapted himself so far, he got an opportunity. And that is how he worked hard. We used to tell him, okay, please come home for this weekend. He would say, no, I am busy. I want to go to Hyderabad. I want to go here. He would avoid coming because he was burdened with work. And that should be the way you do induction. That is the way you should mentor. You need to plan for every family member. It is one size doesn't fit all. You have to see what will happen, what type of facilities or what type of things will excite him, and you have to plan accordingly. And you do fine tuning on the way, but you need to have a plan. And that is what worked very well in case of Jatan. Same thing happened for Amit. Amit has a different passion. Amit has a different mindset. So I will never go and talk to him or offer him something what I offered to Suraj, because Suraj had another type of growth mindset. So, but Amit again in his field is so successful that he will not look at his brother's pie, because he himself is already having enough in his plate. That is the way you must build up your family.
Very true. Mr. Vieira, here comes, it's so many families that you have worked with, and some examples also we used to discuss on succession planning, and how GD Birla to Aditya Birla to Kumar Mangalam Birla succession happened, or the planning happened also. What do you think in this entire scenario of carrying the legacy or passing on the baton to the next generation? What is it that you see that one thing that senior generation should be very careful about, and one issue or one thing that the younger generation also should be very careful about? Otherwise, when the both generations are there thinking their vision or their long-term objectives are not in alignment, then we have seen that succession planning is flops, and then the businesses lose their values and the families also break up. So what do you think in this entire, particularly in today's scenario, the modern scenario where the younger generation is much more active or energetic and more digitalized and more technology oriented? What is it that the senior generation needs to keep one or two things in mind, and younger generation also needs to keep one or two things in mind?
You know, all this environment within family business, where there is warmth and there is companionship and there is, togetherness. One of the things that can be missed out is total objectivity. Are you losing your objectivity and the ability to look at this whole problem of succession or association in work because of emotional factors, or are you able to remain emotional but still maintain a certain objectivity? And this is where people like Lord Leverhulme are great examples. The man who founded Levers, Unilever, he had 2 or 3 sons. They all 3 worked in the company. But when he planned for his own retirement, he called all of them and said, look, I've been observing you for many years now. And I find that the way we have grown, none of you will be able to manage the business. But of course, all the shares in the business are being given to you, or allotted to all of you. But you will earn much more money by staying at home or doing something else than by trying to run the business. And that is how he made Unilever a professionally run company straight from generation number 1. It was not because Lord Leverhulme did not love his children. He loved them. He was warm towards them. There was companionship. But he didn't lose his objectivity. He knew that he knew what is good for the company and what is good for them. And when Lord Leverhulme III came to India many years ago, and he came on a personal visit, he and his wife, as tourists to India. They stayed at the Taj Mahal Hotel in Bombay. And I really can't remember whether they had time to visit the Lever's office, which was just down the road at Churchgate. But I don't think they visited the office. I think they just had, the Lever's directors just had a dinner party for them at the Wellington. And again at the party, I don't know whether they asked them, the directors, what was the sale and the profit in India? Nothing. It was a social visit. They were divorced and yet they were part of it. Are you able to draw those distinctions? At the same time, I'm not making a plea for only having professionals as successors. There is exactly what Mr. Dodeja has done, which is admirable, and which I would say does not always happen. All right, or it happens for the first generation, or it happens also for the second generation. Very some happens in the third generation, fourth generation, very unlikely, and that is where your figures come. 33% second generation, 13% third generation, 3% fourth generation. And that's what you've given in the book, right?
Yes, absolutely right.
So please be impartial and objective, while at the same time being warm and companionship and friendly.
That's absolutely right, sir. Very
Geeta,
well
I
said.
must add, one
Yes,
minute.
sir.
Geeta, I must add, when I spoke to my wife about Jatan's journey to Bangalore, and he was in USA, she stopped talking to me for 15 days. She said, what type of father you are? Boy is coming home after 4 years and you want him to go back again for an extended bachelorhood. I said, yes, let him continue this same lifestyle for another 3 years in India. Everything will fall in place. And the journey passed, and today he has become part of our core committee because he has so much of wisdom about our business.
I think, yeah, it's
No
absolutely
pain, no
right.
gain.
Yes, no pain, no gain. Suraj, my question to you is: you are as a next generation Sion. If you look at it, then you are 3 of you working in the business, and of different age and different experience cycles that you have been through. All 3 of you, the younger generation guys. How do you? And then there are others who are not working in the business. So what do you see as, what kind of complexities that you see in the Cousins Consortium? What do you see as running the business is one thing, but how do you keep your objectives aligned, your roles or or are there any challenges that you face and you say, okay, we need to take conscious call on some challenges
No, as such,
as
I think
cousins?
we face very few challenges at the second generation because we have certain things in place in our company. One of the primary rules that whenever we want to conclude on any decision is we decide what is good for the company. That is the center of every decision that you take. What is good for Vashi? So when five of us are sitting and debating, we will ultimately think from a customer perspective or from an organization perspective. So then the personal bias and ego gets thrown out, because if the company exists, we exist. I mean, that concept is very well understood between all of us. Second, I think one of the best ways, like even my father spoke about it, when you have new family members entering the business, we must not always divide the pie. We should think of how we can grow the pie. And then everybody will again have enough of the pie to work with. One big mistake we make in the second generation is we think we have to come and replace our parents, replace my uncle, replace my father. So that's where the biggest clash starts. We have to actually complement them. We don't have to compete with them or replace them. So we need to bring different skill sets to the table to do the work so that it becomes a joint effort. So if these broader aspects are in place, I don't think there is any reason for any conflict at any generation.
I think it's a yes. When you are clear on your objectives or your agenda, then things fall in place. And yes, and then family dynamics always are there. But I would say the values which you abide by, they take care of all possible conflicts or that could come, or the differences that could come. And which in your case, you all of you see that what is good for Vashi, and that is very important. So even if you are controlling, you're managing the business, but still there is professionalism in the entire culture, where what is good for the business is good for us. So that is where I think the induction or the training or the grooming of the next generation should happen. I have a question for Madanji, and this is from one of our participants. That what do you see this? What are the tips or insights that you go about talent management? I'm sorry, I'm taking the questions here because there are a couple of questions, and I thought that in our discussion itself, they'll make sense if we discuss it. What are the insights to go about talent management and participatory leadership? Talent management, that means you're managing talent, people, and not just people, but the family members. How is this talent of family members could be developed, their leadership skills, and how do you ensure that the family has a shared vision? Because with all so many members, and then women also may not be participating actively, but they also have a voice in the family to keep the family united. So as a family, as a joint family, a large family, how do you ensure that there is a shared vision and everybody is on the same track?
So there are two aspects to this question. One is managing the business and managing the family. So these are two different aspects. So our business is built on a fundamentals to make it sustainable model from the risk perspective, from the product portfolio perspective, from the technology perspective, and from the people management perspective. The second generation is actively also involved in all this participation. It is a joint effort. So what happens is many things in course of time fall in place, and the organization starts looking for the answers to the right people in the organization. They don't have to look at only one person, but they look at different leaderships for the answer. So what happens is, if every member has a role identified and he's playing what Suraj said, is playing to his skill sets, passion and liking, things will fall in place. And what we should do is we must expose our generation for absorbing and learning from the market conditions. So everywhere they are exposed, whether it is at customer point, whether it is at the principal point, whether it is at the market point. So more they are exposed, they attend such forums, they bring new insights into the business. So everywhere they are the front people. The second generation as early as possible should be the voice of the organization and face of the organization, and you should not wait for any special day in your life or any crisis to happen. They should be the face of your organization. The moment they own it up, the job is done.
Ownership of, yes, your role and your
Yeah.
involvement that
So
comes.
the involvement
So
of
Suraj, now in this, sorry, please, sir, go ahead.
yeah, the involvement of the second generation is of paramount significance to keep this family business lubricated. It cannot get into a jam and then you look for a successor who is going to push this car. It will be very difficult. You have to keep it lubricated continuously through such efforts.
Absolutely, yeah, that is true. Lubrication is a must, and alignment every now and then that you need to do it. Yes, that is
One
true.
more thing I want to add, one more
Yes,
thing.
sir.
In
Sure.
case there are going to be differences, there are going to be conflicts, but one thing which you should remember in a family business is keep communicating, keep communicating, keep communicating to everybody in what you believe in, and come on the table. Never go into isolation or go into, I would say, into a stop mode, but you continue the dialogue, whether it is concerning the family or business. There are going to be differences. We have gone through these stages every day. When we have these morning meetings, there are going to be conflict because Suraj will say something, I may disagree. I may say something, Suraj will disagree. But we communicate. And then finally what Suraj said, what is in the interest of Ashi, what is in the interest of customer has to prevail upon. So nobody has a veto power. Collective wisdom drives the company, lubricates the company.
That's absolutely right. So Suraj, I have two questions for you. Question one is that the family, when the family is large and then there's so many members and then each one has got certain perspectives and certain personalities also, I think you've done a right thing by having your family policies drafted and put it in place. But what is the right time to have the family council, or what do you think that a family council or a family board, such governance mechanism, does it help, or what is the role of such a mechanism in your case?
Family board for running the company or family board for managing the internal issues of the family?
So the family board is the family members, or some select family members who are working in the business. They come together and they make a board, a formal structure where family issues are also discussed along with not the business issues, but the family's intervention or family's interface with the business are discussed. And I think we had done part of that exercise, or the family council exercise we had done at a certain point. So do you think that such mechanism helps the family members?
It helps very much. I'll tell you what we do. So before the lockdown started, if you call it a family board or a family council, we used to meet every week, every Monday. We used to be sitting down together, the key people from the family, to discuss what is happening at work and to realign our activities. Post lockdown, we increased that to 5 times a week. The first hour in the morning, 10 to 11, we are all sitting down together because we are sitting in such challenging environment. The pandemic brought across scenarios we had never envisioned for the company. So 5 days a week for now nearly 6 months, we have been sitting down and discussing, and every day we have something new to discuss that is going to align the family interest and the business interest. So I think this level of alignment between first and second generation is helping the company remain afloat even during this pandemic. We faced very little challenges during these 6 months. And I think a very strong reason for that is all of us were not running in different directions. We were aligning our thoughts every single day on whatever we felt was good for the company. So that's where I think a family board is vital in the best of times, in the worst of times, but you need to have a concrete mechanism of coming together and, like my father said, communicate. What is a family board? It's basically a platform to communicate and voice your opinion. People should not only be talking in their bedroom, but it should be in a room where all of you have the courage and the ability to talk our thoughts out.
Talk about this, communicate. Yes, absolutely. So do you see that because of this pandemic, the situation not only Yeah.
The leadership should be receptive. He should not come with a fixed mindset in the morning. He should be open-minded. He should absorb. He should be judicious. He should be conscious what is going to. The moment you have come with a fixed mindset, things will be very tough for you to take a call. But if you are open, you are able to realign, adjust. I think it works very well because people start participating. But in 6 months, in my first week only, I would have been rigid. This is the way, this is my way, and this is highway. Then it wouldn't have worked. I am ready to change you 360 degrees. Once somebody gives me a good proposition which I have not thought, I feel so proud and I feel so happy within myself that, oh my God, I alone I wouldn't have been able to think all these things. This my son has been able to bring so many new perspective into this insight, and I appreciate. And we take that as a policy. You should be participative. Then only the children will enjoy their journey and they will participate. After third meeting, they will give me some excuses for not attending this meeting. But here everybody is eager to meet me in the morning at 10 o'clock because it is a participative meeting.
Absolutely right. And communication, when we say communication, then the most important ingredient of communication is listening. Listening and being open to receive ideas. So
Absolutely.
unless we have that ability or say practice of listening, communication doesn't work. So Mr. Vieira, there's one question, or say very briefly, if you can tell us what is the core competency of a family business. If you say core competency, of course we have put 5 G's, and these 5 G's create a competency framework. But what do you think should be the core competency of a family business, or maybe from next generation perspective?
I think the ability to balance the family and the business, and the plank should not run down on one side. You should be able to balance the plank, both family, business. There are some times when business will have a certain priority beyond family. There will be other times when family will have certain priority beyond business. But overall, there will be a balance. It's not easy. It's easy for us to sit here and talk about it. In real life, it is worse than, or more difficult than being able to balance on a wooden plank with a central, support. Yeah.
That is true.
Meeta, I want to add to what Walter said. I want to add unity in diversity is very important. I must recommend, I was just watching Harshad Mehta's story. Now this gentleman is able to fight even the Prime Minister in his time. But the moment he got a challenge within the family, he gave up and he died within a year. So internal unity is prime responsibility of success of family business. Unity in diversity. That man can fight Prime Minister, he can fight the largest bank in the world, but he couldn't fight his internal enemy. And he gave up and he died within a year. He did not die for anything else, but he gave up. You must watch this serial which is going on. It's on family business.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's very interesting series. I see the reviews. But it's very true, the fulcrum or the balancing family, business, and even ownership aspect. I mean, that is what we equations also we try to do with the families. Suraj, there's a question for you, and here one of our participants is saying that we are a small family business. How do we digitalize the business with minimum investment? Is investing large is the only way forward, or can we do it in a smaller way?
Yeah, so again, this is a question that I've answered many times, that digitalization is not expensive at all. Today with cloud computing, digitalization is much cheaper than adding people to your company. So it is at Vashi today, we are a highly technology driven company, highly digitalized company over the last 10 years. And we personally don't even spend more than 0.4% of our turnover on digitalization every year. So, and we started digitalizing when our company was 10 times smaller than where we are today. We started the whole process then. So there is never a good time to start your journey on technology, because it's not like I need to use technology once I'm bigger. It is the other way around. The faster you use technology, the faster you will grow. And cost of technology in cloud computing, where things are available on the net, you get username, password, pay monthly rent for the license you use, is very small. The problem is we don't implement it properly. When we have our monthly review meeting, weekly review meeting, we don't use the technology. We still use our normal piece of paper which is in our hand. After some time, the people will stop using that technology, and then we blame the technology cost. But we are not using at the top management that technology, then the entire thing is lost.
Absolutely right. Yes, that is right. So I didn't realize it, but the time is running, and the tick is not going to stop for us. So I have just one last question for Mr. Vieira. That Mr. Vieira, one participant is asking that ego is a business killer. Definitely, it's a business killer, but it's also a human tendency. So how do we impartially move forward, keeping everybody happy, or how do you see that happiness be the key factor in a family business? So balancing ego, or say removing ego and replacing it by happiness or congeniality or harmony, what do you say about it?
You know, very difficult actually, because as Mr. Judeja said and made the point very clearly, and that is why he's a success. Clear goals.
The goals, yes.
Goals that are accepted by all concerned, and therefore everybody is moving in the same direction. Second is, as he said, and I'm so glad he said this, keep communicating, keep talking. Don't get into a shell and don't nurture these hurts, which then go into bed sores, and then you can't sleep. Keep talking, keep overcoming this. I must tell you, in all my experience, there are two sectors where I found this a very big problem. One is wives of the successors who have different aspirations. Different wives have different aspirations, and they put their minds to pull them along into different directions. Possibility, unless the successor, the family is very strong. The second is children of partners. When there is a partnership company and their children come into the business and they are not related, there's no family tie, there is an old business tie. And there, then, if they don't get on, it can be very vicious. So it is better for one to buy out the other and remain then alone, rather than continue this fight perpetually. I've had many instances where I've been asked to come and be a moderator in these fights.
Facilitate them, yeah.
Yes, facilitator, but I have not enjoyed it. It has always been a big challenge. And women are always a challenge, but in this situation, they are a bigger challenge.
So I would say here that women, they are the CEOs, and we call them emotional officers. So if they are given the opportunity to play the CEO, Chief Emotional Officer's role, then the conflict or the differences or disturbances and all, they could be minimized. That is
So,
yes.
Geeta, can I add something to what Walter
Yes, sir.
said?
Yes, sir.
There is dharma in every role.
Yeah.
There is dharma in every role, and you have to be detached when you are performing that role. You should not get attached to that relationship of wife, husband, brother, nephew, partner, because with dharma comes every role, and you have to perform the dharma with transparent and with honesty and with integrity and with a reason. Probably the other person has not understood. That is why he is having a gap in understanding. But because I am the leader, I am the karta of this duty, I have to follow a dharma unbiased, detached, and I can tell you, I have gone through this test of time, not once, but more than 100 times. You will have peace of mind. You will find that the other person has realized he is happy. But if I would have compromised, I would have messed up the family at that point. So if you are the leader, if you are going to manage the family, you should be detached and you must follow the dharma. Your conscience will always guide you to manage these challenges.
Absolutely fantastic. Mr. Dodecha, further to this, one participant's Ravi's question here, that you are, say today, the decision maker, you are the patriarch of the family, but how do you plan to nominate your successor? How do you plan
Suraj
to
rightly said, every day 10 to 11 is my mentorship with them. They come with opposite view. It is my challenge. I use the right phrases, right words, and communicate. So when they go back, next day morning, I realize they have come with a very positive thought in their mind. It is going to be the same way. If somebody has told me, I may not have understood that. It takes time for us to absorb and leave things on that plate. Don't take decisions impatiently. Don't make statements which are going to hurt. Have patience when you're dealing with family.
Right. I think it's our participants are also enjoying the discussion, and nobody's in a hurry to leave. So but I think the time is ticking.
It is
so
your call. Your call. We are ready to share our learnings with you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So I think we can go in for another 5 minutes or so. And one question now for Suraj. Suraj, how do you look at as the next generation, your next generation member? What do you see the difference in the leadership that the incumbent, the current generation has, and the generation next would have? The leadership ethos or leadership styles, do you think that they change in family businesses with the generations changing, or say transition happening, or leadership styles continue?
So I think fundamentally leadership style is not age centric. A leader has to have a growth mindset and a learning mindset, a learner's mindset and a growth mindset, even if you are 70 or you're 25. If that is missing, then I mean, you could be first generation or second generation, the business is going to go into a negative zone. So I would give the mindset a much bigger role to play in this than the age of the person, I feel. So the day you stop learning, you no longer should be the leader in the company.
Yeah, true. The leader has to
But the
continuously grow.
transformation cycle stops. I mean, given the pandemic, just imagine if the leadership at the top of our company was not ready to transform the way we were looking at the scenario, the company would have fallen. But because we were ready to transform every single day and take 1% changes every day, the company was able to pivot across this situation. So it's about the thought process that the people at the top have and the eagerness to change. And that has nothing to do with age.
Gita, in all
Mr.
circumstances,
Vieira.
the value should not change. The value should not change. The culture should not change. The gratitude, the empathy, the love, the respect, those values with the change personality should not change. That should be the commitment of the organization. Because that is what has brought you till here. It will take you further.
It's the fabric. So your fabric remains the same.
Yeah.
You may give
Those
whatever
values
shape and
cannot
cut and
change.
design, but
people
yes,
who had been with you for such a long time, they have smelt that values in you. That smell should not change in the organization. The culture is the smell is the culture of the organization. That smell has attracted people. That smell should continue even with change leadership.
Yeah, this is what we have defined in our book also, the 5Gs, that culture is something what we do here. So anything that the employees, when they are put up, they say, this is what we do here in the organization. It defines the culture of the organization.
So even with the change leadership, with the change management, the culture with which the fabric was woven should remain intact. And that is what we
Mr.
consciously
Veera,
try
quickly, if
to
you
do
can.
at each level in the organization, not only within the family, but outside the family also. The same values, the same transparency. जितना दिन तू मेरे साथ में ये वैल्यूज के साथ में जिएगा, तू जाएगा, तेरा नसीब है, तू जो चाहिए लेकर जा, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, लेकिन you will become my brand ambassador when you are not with Vashi Electric.
Mr. Veera, if you can just tell us quickly, or what is the time, or when do the leadership or should decide that it is right to have family members joining the business, or professionals should come in the business? So, is there any scale or any signals which come, or we can make out that now the professionals are required in the business and not the family members, or the family members and need not be professionals? How does one decide really?
No, there is no formula. It is really circumstances. The formula, you know, one could get ill, for example. The number one could be a victim of cancer, for example. That can happen. There can be an accident. That can happen. You know, suddenly it dies in a plane crash. What happens? I think the circumstances really dictate. Therefore, one has to leave it very flexible, rather than, the only thing is that you keep moving towards ensuring that when you go, you have prepared the ground for somebody else to take over, and it will happen smoothly. It will happen without any hitch, and the organization will move towards the same goals. You will find this excellent example of Levers, Hindustan Lever. When they appoint a chairman for India, for example, when they appoint a chairman, within 6 months of his appointment, he has to nominate 2 other people, his juniors, who could be his successors. And these 2 people will be nurtured, they will be mentored, and they will be observed by leaders in UK to see how they are groomed. And what is the reason? Why should they do it within only 6 months? Because they say you could meet with an accident tomorrow. Then we would know who are the possibilities. The second rule in Levers is that no chairman remains more than 5 years. He could be the most brilliant chairman, like Prakash Tandon. But 5 years were up, and in fact, he went few months before 5 years to become the chairman of State Trading Corporation. Indira Gandhi invited him to be that. So there is no permanence, and therefore the chairman tries to be the best leader he can be and show in these 5 years there is limited portion. But that does not happen in family businesses and so on. So the scenarios are different. But I cannot answer your question.
I agree that this is not, it's very subjective.
I can tell you what we do at Vashi, because we have a lot of professionals that work for us. How do we decide which activity requires a professional? It's like running a business is like cooking a dish, cooking some food. You require different ingredients to make that dish tasty, right? So somebody is salt, somebody is sugar, somebody is garlic. So you have to list down what are the skill sets required to be required for running that particular division in your company. And you realize you put down, without ego again, which are the skill sets that exist in the company today. And there will be definitely certain things for which you require professional help. Then you go out looking for those kind of people to come in to that business unit, so that the ultimate dish that is created is tasty. Otherwise, it is going to be half cooked. And then we will blame outsiders, we will blame market scenario, and we'll blame everyone, but we did not cook the dish properly. We did not get the right skill sets inside. Look for the missing skill set and bring only those professionals inside. Then the situation will be fine.
I think it's very well said. Yes.
I want to add to what Suraj and Walter said. So the leader is able to smell the opportunities. what are the opportunities available in the market. He can smell it, but he doesn't have the expert thinking. Like a prime minister, he has to get the experts to get solutions. So the leader should be able to only get the experts to manage those opportunities available and grow the business. I think the leader should have capability of getting the right people at the right time to do the job and drive the business, and leave it rest on the lead, on the people appointed to grow that business. I think leader has to only get the right competent people at the right time. He's not a jack of all. He is only going to manage these challenges through these experts. And I think we have to bring those experts inside. So naturally, 9 out of 10 times we have to look outside for professionals to bring this expert advice and drive this new, because market has become so dynamic, so challenging, but there are so many new opportunities for which you don't have inside an expert. So don't go on trusted people. Because family member, why you want? Because he's a trusted guy. Don't worry about the trust. Worry about the result and get the best person into the organization.
Correct. Good.
So then in that case, Mr. Dodecha, you as said, it's leadership is one, but another point is also passing on the reins to the next generation. So the senior generation, at what time, or say, what is that phase, or when should the senior generation also should look at the business, the leadership, and decide that when they need to let it go? Is there any are there any signals for that, or are there ways that the senior generation would say now it's time to let it go and transition?
One is that Mr. Walter's example of Unilever, which you built up in an organization of 5 years, 10 years. Another is what Suraj said, that leader should leave the space as soon as he stops learning and growing, so that he immediately gives it to a younger blood. Because the child, what is your business, has to always remain young. He should always remain 30 years old, though you are 70 years old. So how will the child remain 30 years old if you stop putting that, induct that type of blood within? So child has to be athletic. He has to be a runner. So you have to ensure, if you have stopped contributing, like a nature, you know, the tree, the moment it stops serving the nature, it falls down. You don't have to wait for falling down. See, when we were young, there was a cricket commentator, Vijay Merchant, who used to come at 1:45 every day. He used to tell cricketers, leave the pitch when people ask why, not why not. So when people don't leave the pitch before people tell why not, you should leave the pitch before people ask why is Madan leaving. That should be the celebration.
That should be the celebration. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that is right. That is true. And how you handle, or not only you, but the senior should handle when the younger generation has got some ideas or thoughts which are not gelling, or they're not aligned with the philosophy and the whole mechanism, you know, of working in the business or so. So if somebody wants to be into a totally different career, so
It is natural. It is natural. It is natural. But you have to excite them by giving them the alternates, so that they forget their thought. The challenge in the leadership is like a father who immediately diverts the attention by giving exciting proposal which they have not thought, so that their mind is diverted. And we are all human beings. There is nothing like passion. It is only about managing passion.
Then diversification, which happens now when there are more number of members in the family. So then families, they take a very conscious route of investing and funding ventures, or say startups, or say new ventures for younger generation, so that the business doesn't remain in just one basket, or say one egg in one basket, but then there are several, and there are many families are looking at it, starting at looking at Reliance itself. Now so many businesses are in different baskets, and more suited to younger generations likes and choices and the future. So do you think that the family members should focus on just one business and one basket, or
Absolutely.
they can go away?
Absolutely, Mita. Family business should not be run on instincts. My gut feelings say that we must do this is stupidity. There has to be a checklist. I would suggest Suraj will give you a better answer. How do we manage such aspirations within the family? Suraj, can you share with them your checklist you have?
So I can answer this. I think first, primarily, we need to understand as a business, just because every aspiration ultimately has to make a difference to some element of the society. I mean, even if you're a startup and you want funding, you go looking for funding. Let's say he's my younger brother, my child. Tomorrow, my son wants to start something of his own. Just because he's my son, I should invest in that business. Does not. How can he understand that this business plan is good? I mean, how is it going to make a difference to few people in the world? How are you making a difference? So these are the kind of conversations even today I have with my children. So just because you are my family member, I am not going to suddenly invest in your business. Answering your question, should we invest towards any family member? No. If the person is passionate and has the right business mindset, then probably in years to come, it's not a bad idea. Like what Reliance is doing, they are growing their business empire. Like I said, you have to increase the pie. So they are increasing the pie so that every family member feels that there is something in it for me. I mean, that's only one side of the story. Mukesh Ambani also sees that there is a huge value that he can add to the society through each of his business verticals. So I don't know. It's a very complex question. I don't know if I'm answering your point here.
No, it is, I agree that it is not exactly any black and white answer here. But usually it so happens that in the family, especially in the second and third generation, it tends to happen that not all the younger generation members want to be in the business for whatever. They may have passion for some another art or craft or any other industry, or they don't want to work in the business and they want to be in the corporate world. So there could be differences in their aspirations. And I guess balancing business and balancing family and the whole dynamics is works well when each family member is given or is allowed to use a passion, or say make the best of his or her passion in
See,
the family. So if the business is the passion, yes, please be there. If business is not the passion, then okay, whatever is passion you. So that freedom has to be there in the family. Now my question is whether it should be there or not. Or no, it's not the question of freedom, but
Yeah.
the best answer is that hopefully the children will join what is the core competency of the business, because we understand the good and bad of that business. I mean, it is best if people can join what is already there, because lesser mistakes will be made in the long run, and we leverage on what is already there.
Yeah.
But in a scenario where a person is very passionate about something else, we should first see whether the person has the entrepreneurial spirit, or does he have a professional mindset. That does he just want a 9 to 5 job, very focused on what is the salary I'm going to get at the end of the month. Then we should not put our money into such a business enterprise, because that guy is going to fail it. But if the mindset is entrepreneurial, then it is no harm to put some kind of startup money to allow that business to grow.
That I agree, because at many times I see my clients also, they have children, they send them abroad for studies, and then they come back and then they ask them whether you want to join the business. But I think that time is already when the child is, or say younger member has already been abroad and worked in like you worked in KPMG or ENY or so. Then their mindsets are made to some extent. They prefer corporate careers or so. But anyway, yeah,
much before. I mean,
much
you're
before,
talking about
yeah.
20. I think at 8 to 15, that is the age when you create that spark of entrepreneurship in a child. If you have missed the bus, then it is too late at 20 to start discussing all this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think.
Meeta, I
Yes.
want to add. What
Yes,
I
sir.
want to add is that any family business should focus on core competence of the business. Though the playing area is same. Suppose we are core competence in playing in that cricket field. Now tomorrow suddenly my son comes and tells me we'll play hockey on this. Both are on the same field, but the rules are different. We may mess up, though it is same business. But the playing area has to be, we have to focus on our competency. Because my son wants to play hockey on the same field, I must permit, probably I will mess up. Tomorrow, see, Vashi Electric success is we have invested in our core competence for 45 years. We could have gone in real estate. We could have gone in some holiday homes, some hotels, or some other construction. But we focused on our core competency and kept on growing our pie with the same customers, with the same segments. I think that has helped Vashi. We never withdrew money and put in some industry because my friend went, because my cousin went, because my brother-in-law went. We get such temptations continuously, but we say no because we don't have that core competence. We could have gone into backward integration into manufacturing all these products rather than only being a supply chain between the manufacturer and the customer. So various options were there, but we are focused on our core competency, and that is one reason why Vashi Electric is successful. Not one, the reason.
I think it's interesting, and there is some questions, or say one topic on women and daughters in family business is what we not been able to talk about it. Your daughter is, I think she has a business, but she's not in the family business. So you have any specific view on it very quickly if you can share, because that will be my last question.
Yes. I must share this part of the story also. So we have one daughter among 4 sons. So what happened is when my daughter was getting married, and when I selected Mr. Pradeep Nichani as my son-in-law, I realized that I have to balance my family. Also, I have to look for some business for my daughter, which does not clash post Madan Dodeja, post next generation with them, because there is going to be cultural clash and some. So what we did, we went into automobiles. We immediately went into automobiles. We became distributors for Castrol, for Maruti, for Hero. And now that automobile segment business, my son-in-law is a partner and Vashi is the parent company. So he has his own activity, my daughter, my son-in-law, to earn and grow in that business in automobile, because that is their fancy also of automobile. No, so nowhere this clashes with our core competence business, electrical. So they have their own pie, own sustainable model for years to come till they keep on participating. And Vashi Electric is the parent company of this subsidiary of automobile business. So we have already prepared a plan where my daughter will get equal share of business remuneration which my sons get through this venture of automobile business. So this was done immediately in the year 2002 when she got married. It was not done today or yesterday. It was done in 2002 when the foundation of her marriage was established. Till that time, she was a partner in all the activities of the family.
So I would very quickly, I would sum up here and this question also, or say your responses. We still in India, we see that yes, women or say daughters must get the share in the business or the wealth of the family. So there are no two questions about that. But when it comes to daughters working in the family business and taking leadership roles or being the board of directors, I still see that there are largely there are apprehensions about it. Of course, I would say it's more because of our marriage system. But maybe the times are changing and we are seeing more women, more daughters coming up and taking the lead roles in their family businesses. I would say it is not right or wrong. It is just the culture of the family, culture of our society that we live in. And again, it's depends a lot on the aspirations of daughters. So if they are
keep an open mind,
yeah,
we have
so
to keep an open mind.
Yes, that is
keep
true.
an open mind and take the best decision, which again doesn't clash with the objectives of your company. So don't compromise emotionally. It has to, you have to satisfy the objectives of the company when you take such decisions.
Absolutely. Now, I see some questions floating, but I think it is now really the time that we need to close our discussion. It's been really very interesting and enchanting discussion. And I wish we could have this for 2 hours or so going on, but maybe some other opportunity that we'll have and we'll discuss on other topics also. But now I think I thank all of you, my guest members, for giving so much of your time and sharing your insights and your experiences with us. So I appreciate you being here. Thanks to IMCI Mumbai chapter for partnering with us and Equations team and IMCI team to make this possible. And we had got a very large number of participants in this event. So once again, yeah, for all the participants, we keep this video recordings on our website, www.equationsindia.com. So you'll be able to, of course, it'll take us few days to upload the video, but we put curated videos on our website, so you can have a look at it anytime in our YouTube channel. Our book, The 5Gs of Family Business, is also available on Amazon if you wish to have more insights into. Thank all of you, my guest members, for giving so much of your time and sharing your insights and your experiences with us. I appreciate you being here. Thanks to IMCI Mumbai chapter for partnering with us, and Equations team and IMCI team to make this possible. And we had got a very large number of participants. We keep this video recordings on our website, www.equationsindia.com.